Hello. I hope you all realise there's been a war between Britain and America over the past few weeks. Did you know that? Well, there you are. And I am very happy to be able to tell everyone, especially everyone over here in the United Kingdom, that we won most comprehensively. And I saw this article in the Daily Telegraph, and it's an analysis from the American point of view of what went wrong. And just before I do that, I want to point a couple of statistics out to you. Britain is very small. Now, I know that a lot of people seem to have Britain as some sort of huge monster in their minds, but it is very small. It's smaller than France. It's smaller than Germany. And it is smaller than the United States by an order of several magnitudes. Britain is smaller than Arizona on its own and smaller than California. That's only, there are more that Britain is much smaller than. It's about the same size as Oregon, although I understand that a lot of Brits feel very offended that they're compared to Oregon. I don't know why. I think Oregon is very beautiful. It is somewhat underpopulated, though. The population of Britain is supposed to be 68 million or thereabouts. A lot of people are saying that the statistics have been fudged because of illegal immigration that the government is embarrassed to admit to. But it's somewhere around 70 million. It might be a bit plus or minus there. But anyway, that's the official figure, 70 million. The United States has a population of, what was it? 331 million. 331 million people for their pool of army draftees or conscripts or whatever you call them. That means you have 300, obviously this is not a straight figure because there are young people and old people in it, but the population is 331 million as against the British 70 million. And yet we managed to field a much better army, qualitatively. That's a difficult word to say, isn't it? So after the American army, you see, I was asked by a Canadian not to say American on the grounds that there are other countries that are American that aren't the United States. But you see here, this article, it says British troops trounced Americans in war games. You see, so you do slip into that in some way. And to say, well, the United States Army, it's a bit awkward. So it's the United States of America and it's been shortened to America. Sorry, Canadians, you have my sympathy. You are persistently dwarfed by this bigger, brasher brother. And you also, you were under attack from the new United States of America from its very inception. So I understand that you have a historical relationship with the United States, which is not unadulterated joy. And but you have to say one thing about the United States of America. They have free speech in their constitution. It may not be working brilliantly, but it's certainly a bit of an improvement on what's going on in Canada right now. You have my sympathy. That's as far as I can go there. So I've completely gone off the subject. Anyway, look, British troops trounced Americans in war games. And this is what a senator said, because the US military is focused on culture wars. And yeah, 100%. You have so many more men in the United States. You see, I caught myself there. You have so many more, men and women. You have so much more in the way of resources. Numerically, of course, you are unassailable. And yet you lost to a bunch of Brits. And this is why Senator says America's top general should focus less on critical race theory and understanding white rage. Yeah, when I heard General Milley talking about white rage, I was appalled. What is the American military? It's from a population which is majority white. If there really were white rage, then there'd be nothing left of the minorities. You know, it's the sort of stuff you get teenagers saying about their parents being the cruelest, most ununderstanding adults in the world. I did that myself when I was a teenager. I know all about it. But I grew up. Okay, the Royal Marines the Royal Marines, they are really the best. They are the best. They're better than anything, any other army. I think maybe the Israeli army is pretty good too, but that's, because they're under constant threat. But the Royal Marines are really something. The Royal Marines were able to dominate US forces in a training exercise because the Pentagon is too focused on culture wars. I was going to say, I would be very interested to get sarky comments under this video in which United Statesians, there you are, Canada, are telling me, yeah, well, Afghanistan beat us, so you beating us is no big deal. And I'm afraid, well, that's checkmate, isn't it? Because that's what happened. Because the Pentagon is... Josh Hawley, who sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee, lambasted the US Defense Secretary and America's top general after US forces surrendered to the British halfway through a simulation in the California desert. I want to point something else out. The Royal Marines, they're from Britain. It's quite damp and fairly cool here. They managed to beat the American forces in California, which is definitely not their home territory. There was something, I remember there was, it might have been one of the battles during the First World War when some general on the other side from the British boasted to another general that they'd forced the British back into the sea. And the other general said, "You fool, that's their element." Okay, in the wake of the incident, Mr. Hawley accused the US military leadership under Joe Biden's Democratic administration of being too concerned with having soldiers read about critical race theory and white rage instead of prioritizing war fighting. Yeah, I mean, how are you going to have a committed and belligerent army if you're worried about your own position in the world? I was having an argument with a friend a while ago. Well, it wasn't really an argument, it was just a discussion. And he was talking about critical race theory, and he's a white man, by the way, he's an Irishman to be exact. He said that critical race theory is good because it destabilizes white men, stopping them from being all cocksure and, and overbearing. And I said to him that my idea was that when people are unsure of themselves, they are worse people. And I absolutely deeply believe this. So we finished the argument, well, the discussion there. He had that opinion. I had my opinion. It's all right. We're still friends. We just have different views on the subject. But my particular view is that when people are insecure within themselves, they tend to act badly to prove to themselves what they are. My whole feeling, for instance, about ISIS was that it was full of young men who really weren't sure of themselves. They may have said they were sure of themselves. They may have covered their vicious thuggery with a lot of bluster and everything, but inside they are deeply insecure, and that the most secure people are the ones who act the best. Okay, So I'm just talking about my observations. And my observations come from, well, yeah, quite a few years of seeing men interact, especially in academic environments. And if you think professors are all intellectual and for all their intelligence, you are completely wrong. The sort of vicious territorialism in universities would turn Josh Hawley's hair grey. I don't know what Josh Hawley looks like, but if it isn't grey and he saw what was going on in academia, then yeah, it would be grey. And also, I have a lot of experience with animals, and you see it with, for instance, horses. The mares, when you're different sorts of horses, when you're riding stallions, they can cut up very rough, but only if they see mares. Mares just carry on doing their stuff. They know where their place is. Stallions have to constantly fight to gain their ascendancy in the world, to give themselves a purpose. And in many ways, they're mammals, just like us. And that's one big difference between male mammals and female mammals. In general, females, and this is not entirely good, by the way, females don't push out so much because they know their place in the world. They have a function, and but males, they have to constantly fight for their function. Obviously, civilization has changed a little bit of that. Why am I don't, this is ridiculous. Let's get back to this. Sorry. Okay, I'm not sure. I'll see how long this goes. I might cut that out. In the wake of the incident, Mr. Hawley accused... oh, yes. Now I see why I was going off on that tangent. So what I was trying to illustrate was that when you give... And the army still is, the fighting units, they still are mostly men. When you give men a sense of insecurity, they are going to act badly. Actually, that happened in Vietnam, didn't it? American troops lost control in many cases. I remember an incident which is famous as called My Lai, after the village where it happened. It was a situation where a lot of demoralized men just completely lost it. Right, so there you are. He said it showed that while the US continued to have the best soldiers in the world, no, they're obviously not, because the Brits beat them. They're better soldiers. Democrats were turning the military into a giant social experiment. Now that's why, not that the United States of American men are worse in any way. No. Good men and brave men, but demoralized men by this giant social experiment. During Exercise Green Dagger in the California desert at the end of October, Royal Marines forced US troops to ask for a reset halfway through after the Americans suffered significant simulated casualties. At one point, the British kill board showed almost every US asset had been destroyed or rendered inoperable. When the exercise ended, the Royal Marines were in control of over 65% of the area being fought over, having started with less than 20%. Right, now, please don't think I am glorying in this particular American defeat. I am, of course, very proud of the Royal Marines, and although I have nothing to do with the Royal Marines myself, you may say I have no right to appropriate that pride, but I'm doing that anyway. Okay, so what's going on is this. I'm very glad that it was the British that did this and not the Chinese. The Chinese will be watching this and they'll have seen what's going on. And perhaps this will be enough to shake up the American army. I don't know. I mean, Biden's out of it and they have an agenda. But it might get some of the generals to force Milley into revising his opinions. And I really do hope that. Okay, well, that's that. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.